It's that time again. It's the make or break for 7 lucky young people, and we'll see what happens. Welcome to Command X New Orleans. This is our, exactly, everyone's favorite. It's the hit live design competition. It's in its 5th year. We're now in the Big Easy, and this year it's bigger than ever. Amazing. You're gonna be like blown away. A really special big thank you to our sponsor, LG, for being the Command X sponsor. Thank you. Now, I need to make a very special call out to someone who you probably expected to see and then said, he's not Michael Beirut. Something's wrong. So Michael Beirut, Jesse Reed, Matt Munoz are our Command X veterans. Hello. I kind of figured at some point in my life I would end up as a game show host with my hair. It sort of was like predestined, and it didn't turn out to be that way, but you know, it's okay. So on this stage, we're going to see 7 young design contestants take on several challenges throughout the entire competition. The projects are going to range from identity design to packaging to communication design. So they're widely varied. The designs will be judged and reviewed by our esteemed kind and gentle judges and by you, who will deem the fate of these young people. Now, we don't just throw these people into the gladiator pit without any help. We're going to give them 2 incredible mentors, expert designers that will guide them along the way, hold their hand, and hold them when they're crying. And or hold their head if something else is going on and they're feeling sick. Hey, it's New Orleans, come on. First, I'd like to introduce or to thank our incredible Command X producer, Bonnie Siegler of 8½. Hey, Bonnie. Bonnie is the queen of Command X, and when you see her, you must bow. That is a requirement. She's once again put this whole thing together. She's got an amazing cast and pulled together these incredibly interesting design challenges that are going to keep you on the edge of your seat. So, to keep you in the loop, and I want to make sure that you know that these young people are actually doing the work, that they're not just sitting in their rooms eating bonbons and farming out the projects. I'm going to personally meet them every morning at 7 a.m. at the workstation and interview them to see what's going on and what's happening with their process. So you'll see they're actually working for real, and they got up at 7 a.m., which is probably the hardest thing in this entire project. So let me introduce our timid and quiet, kind and gentle judges. First, the only person I know that can make a logo out of a fluorescent pink fur. Gail Anderson, Director of Design and Digital Media at the School of Visual Arts Press. Welcome, Gail. Next, the undisputed star of the 2013 conference, who can always be counted on for the complete, unvarnished truth, Aaron Draplin, Draplin Design. And a designer who made my most favorite invitation of all time from a Jiffy Pop container, Robin Ray, co-founder and designer at Modern Dog Design. And lastly, our guest judge, our very special guest judge for today, Jerry GANDOLFO, who is the owner of the historic New Orleans VOODOO Museum. Welcome, Jerry. And now let's meet our behind-the-scenes unsung heroes who are going to be doing all of this glorious mentoring. The terrifyingly smart Maria Giudice. There, here, this way, right? Okay. Vice President of Experience Design at Autodesk. And of course, our honored queen and leader, Bonnie Siegler from 8.5 Design. Okay, so now here comes the important part, beyond the 7 a.m. issue. What are they going to be competing for? I know that's what you're all asking for. I was going to say it's a brand new car, but it's not. They're going to win $1,000 in cold hard cash. Yeah. A 1-year creative subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud, an LG ultra-wide 21:9 monitor that I really want, so I may have to steal that, a $250 gift certificate to Shapeways 3D printing, a 1-year subscription to Shutterstock, a 1-year subscription to Skillshare, plus fame, jobs, and obviously offers of sex from many of you. So that's where you guys all come in. Not the sex part, but the other part. Okay. These brave contestants are representing a very promising future in our field. So if you see something that they've done that you like, reach out and get in touch with them. I mean, again, do not touch them physically unless they ask you. Now, you can do that by their bios, which are in our app, or you can find links to their Twitter handle on the conference website. So, without further ado, let's meet our magnificent contestants. Contestants. This way. We have Sarah Azpeitia from New York City, Clare Jensen from Venice, California, woo, Venice, Jacob Parr, Northwood, Ohio, Nate Pyper, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Elliot Salazar from New York City, Amy Nicole Schwartz from Chicago, and Russell Shaw from Atlanta. Welcome. Okay, this is how it's going to work. Once you guys have seen the contestants' work, you are going to have the chance to vote, and that is part of the judging. You guys are the other judge in this situation. So you can cast your vote in the app or via text message by texting the name of your favorite contestant to 22333. Remember that? Standard message rates apply. The contestants were given 1 week to complete this very first assignment, to design a logo for the New Orleans Historic Voodoo Museum. So, judges, I'm going to ask for the comments and critiques on the contestants' work and designs after they've presented it to you. So, Sarah, you're first, lucky you. Come forward. It's your mic. So tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then what your concept is.
Thank you. Well, I'm Sarah Azpeitia. I used to live here, black and gold. So just wanted to come up with a visual for blending the concept of voodoo and the concept of something New Orleanian. And I think anyone who has been here understands that fleur-de-lis is the indisputable emblem of the city of New Orleans. So I think just taking from that and the influence of Benin and the Haitian culture and tradition of voodoo with these sculptures and some the typography that is used for the Museum of African Art, and taking that and coming up with something that can be visually represented, but still maintaining the quirkiness and the character of the city of New Orleans, sort of the way you see it on the logo for Crew de View, the skull with the bones. So taking these two concepts and then coming up with the first iteration of my design, which is the next slide. And how can this stand on its own, live with the typography, or live as an emblem alone? And taking, again, this concept of fleur-de-lis and combining it with the masks and the mysterious tradition, and in the type sort of representing how things are bound with the moss and voodoo dolls, and just coming up with a mark that can live on its own, which is the last slide.
Wonderful. Judges, comments and questions? Leap to it.
Okay. So the reason for using the fleur-de-lis, can you explain that again?
Yes. Well, part of the objective of the museum was to maintain voodoo, but because voodoo comes from so many different contexts, how do we attach that to New Orleans? So this is why I took the concept of fleur-de-lis and actually tried to combine the two so that the mark could live on its own, sort of like a voodoo fleur-de-lis.
Can you talk about your title treatment a little bit?
Yes, well, it complements a mask, and sometimes these masks are used in the rituals, or like these figures are used to set up like the space, and it's a tradition of invoking spirits, and the spirits are often represented by these masks. So the typography here complements the facial component of the mask, while representing like the museum part. You can kind of see it's kind of bound in the same way that voodoo dolls are bound, like the moss with the fabric.
So I guess my first impression is that the type and the mark feel separate. They don't feel necessarily like they were created together or meant to work together. Is that?
No, I mean, they are together in the sense that they portray a face, but they can stand separately.
See, those are like big teeth, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I just feel like the style of the fleur-de-lis with the type, there's a disconnect for me between the image and the type.
There is for me too a little bit. I think I'm a fan of the type. I'm not so sure about the rest of it though.
I see.
I like the idea. I just,
Yeah.
I guess I feel like the merging of the two elements are not quite there yet.
So points for refinement. Always good to have, right? Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Claire, you're up. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you did what you did.
Hi.
Oh, you match your logo. That's so cool.
I know.
Yeah.
Well planned.
Okay. Yeah.
My name is Claire. I'm from Venice, California. I would be Snapchatting this entire thing, but we were told we couldn't use our phones. So, bummer. So when I got the brief, I first started sort of at the ground up, and I looked at sort of the Yelp reviews, because I wanted to get a good idea of what people thought after visiting the Voodoo Museum, and then I kind of built from there and started researching more about Louisiana voodoo and voodoo and its culture here, specifically in New Orleans. So when I started putting the mark together, I pulled references from old film posters for the actual lettering of the mark, and then I was looking at the V's, which symbols, or VVs, don't test me on how to say that, but that are these marks that represent the different lows or deities in voodoo. So next slide. These were the specific things that I was looking at, and what I noticed was that in all of them there was this star or flower motif, and so I decided that this would be something good to sort of incorporate into the mark, and I used that. Each of them have it placed in very specific spots. So I used the placements of those stars in the logo, and if we go to the next slide, I mean the mark to be sort of dynamic, and the stars sort of to come in and be in different spots depending on where it's being used. So specifically, the placements will relate to the specific motif or the symbol in there. So depending on which one they might be referencing or using for a specific event, they can use the placements of those stars around the logo or in posters or whatever. and use those as like an extra element. And then also the smaller star can be used at smaller sizes in like on Twitter or in a favicon when the mark won't be seen at
Good.
That's
I like that. Sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. It's sort of becoming an
And that's
identity
it. Time's
system like
done.
concept, and
And that
you're
was
just
it.
explaining it. Judges.
I'll start by saying I like that it's got a little bit of grit and randomness and a little bit of dirt and wildness to it, because I went there this afternoon, and when you go in, it's small and it's mysterious, and there's kind of a dirty edges and stuff. So I think it's appropriate that nothing here is the same from piece to piece to piece. I think that's good. But how do you, what do they say down here? Kick it up a notch? Because when you go in there, it's pretty wild and dark and kind of spooky. Someone had offered up a king-size almond joy to some sort of deity. I noticed that on one of the things. So things must be tough down here. But those colors are so nice. So is there any thinking of how you could activate that little star?
Yeah, well, I was also looking a lot into the coloring, and I was reading a lot about the ways colors represent things, and this was just sort of like the baseline, what it'll look like, or the shapes are formed, but the way they use color is really intelligent on what each color sort of means. So in the red one, or the example that I had designed, that was for a specific deity or a god, and then the red color power symbol kind of went along with that. So I wanted it to be sort of both sort of things paying off the logo.
I'm wondering what we can do to take it away from being as horror movie as it feels right now. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think this is something I sort of kept coming back and forth to, because I definitely wanted to lean into some of the pop culture references of it, because the museum sits on Bourbon Street, so it definitely kind of is one of those like tourist attraction sort of things. And so I wanted to lean into part of that, because that's definitely part of what the museum is, as well as like adding the extra layer of the voodoo religion into it, which is where the stars come in. I kind of went back and forth on trying to figure out, like, is this too much or is this not? But I kind of just decided, well, if I'm going to go in that direction, I might as well go full force.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Jacob, it's your turn.
Hello.
And you tell us about yourself.
Oh, yeah.
The one that
So
we-
I'm Jacob Parr, and I'm from Toledo. And what I try to do is incorporate as much fun as possible into my artwork. And it makes the process more exciting for me. It makes the outcome a little more enjoyable. And so with this logo, it's right there. I worked outside of my comfort zone of where I would normally use iconography, and I wanted to create something typographic. And so with this, the next slide shows the inspiration here. So I was also inspired by the voodoo symbols. And what I liked about them is that they serve as like a bat signal for the voodoo spirits. Like you lay it out there and they specifically come down for that specific signal. And I really liked the hearkening of wandering spirits. And so using that and all the elements from these symbols, I wanted to create a custom typeface. I named the typeface Laveau after Marie Laveau, who was a voodoo practitioner, voodoo queen in the 1800s. And she's featured very prominently in the museum, as I understand. And so I thought it would be a great way to, behind the scenes, pay homage to her legacy as well. And then in the next segment here, I wanted to explore, some vibrant colors. I found this in my research, and I pulled some of the colors out and wanted to give it some vibrant, clean, vibrant look, but with just like maybe a clean chaos to counterbalance some of the dirty grit that's in the museum. So that is my logo.
Nice. So does the typeface, is that part of the system? Is the identity, the logo itself, and then the typeface accompanies it?
Oh, absolutely. And the logo itself is a variation on the typeface. So the typeface could extend itself through applications, and especially with the logo, with repeating O's constantly throughout the word voodoo, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't the same. I wanted to make sure it wasn't sticking ironclad to the typeface that was created, give it a little more variety within the logo.
Good, nice.
Well done. I love this.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Thank you.
So I'm interested in like what voodoo gods are we calling down right now with this? I'm a little worried about that one.
And that you made a typeface just for this? I love you.
Just for fun. What else am I gonna do on a Saturday? I mean,
I love you more.
Don't admit that. Don't admit that. You've got a busy social life. Just say that. Okay.
lots of drinks.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'm just curious if you've thought about like an icon system, like how it would work when it would be shrunk down on an app or
Yes,
smaller.
I wanted to take the same elements and create like a whole system of icons. And by the time I had gotten through the entire alphabet, I realized that it was about time to submit for the for the show. But yeah, I feel like it has a strong enough base of puzzle pieces to piece together. That can have something at small scale, large scale, and really have just a vast array of things with a consistent tone.
Great. Good job. Oh, Jerry?
Yeah, the drawings, which depend heavily on the symbols, that is actually mostly Haitian
Okay.
and New Orleans. In fact, everybody's doing that. And here things are more human. That's why Marie Laveau is the important person.
All right.
What? More what?
Marie Laveau is the important person, more so than this, which is Haitian. And Haitian voodoo doesn't come to New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
Good research. Ready to go.
We've got an expert here. We have an expert with us today. We have an expert,
If
so.
only you'd called them
good
first. Darn.
Good reference. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you so much. Okay, Nate.
The first thing that I noticed when I was doing research on the Voodoo Museum was how hard you had to work to find out more information about it. There's a website, but the link is dead. The best photos that exist are blurry snapshots from Yelp reviews. And when I was looking at these photos in the Yelp reviews, I was really drawn to the do-it-yourself design aesthetic that was in the museum. Half the text panels are set in Times New Roman, and the other half are set in Comic Sans. And so I really felt like there was a really self-made, sincere kind of space. And so I didn't want to do anything too bombastic or that was over-branded. So I came up with this purely typographic approach. And I looked to old blues and jazz posters to inform sort of like a kinetic treatment, and I kind of wanted it to feel like a trumpet solo on a breezy, balmy New Orleans night. And the other thing that I really wanted to reference was the snake as central to voodoo, as seen here, slithering with its tongue out. I wanted to call attention to the fact that the snake is an important role just of the mythology and the serpent god Damballa, who's one of the gods in the mythology, is the god that hatched or laid the cosmic egg that we all hatched from. So I thought it was important to call attention to that, and I also wanted to directly call out and reference a snake whose name was Jolie Blonde, who was an albino snake, an albino python that one of the late former managers of the museum would bring in and greet visitors. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Judges?
I think that when you walk down through that French Quarter, you're competing with yahoos drinking shit out of like big fluorescent tubes and stuff, and fluorescent, neons and things. And it's like, as you go through that, this is going to have to compete with a lot of that. And it's sophisticated, so I'd say positive. On the positive side, it's sophisticated because it's a smart typographic solution. You did that well. But I just think it's a little muted, It needs a little kick.
More kick.
It needs way more because it's going to be out there working against all that other stuff. So I just think it's a little flat because it just needs to to punch you kind of in the face and get you in, you know, because like you get to pick all the places to go get a drink or get a t-shirt or some tour or something. This is going to be competing with those guys. So yeah.
Word up.
I really like your thought process, though. I thought the way you explained how you kind of got to this solution was really good. But I too think that there's something missing. I'm having a hard time imagining it working in different ways. For example, if it wasn't able to be horizontal, what would happen when it gets shrunk down? And so there's those kind of challenges, but I love the thought process. And again, I think the idea is good.
Great.
But
Thank you
look at
so
the
much.
expert.
Oh, more? Okay.
The word jazz comes from a voodoo ceremony. It was originally spelled J-A-S-S, and it refers to sex. It got adopted from that by Jelly Roll Morton into Storyville. From there, it developed into jazz that we know today. They used not to separate recreation from religion. That's something we do. And it's only after they separated that jazz became an entertainment genre. Prior to that, jazz and voodoo were one and the same.
Awesome.
Guys,
Thank you.
You should have all called Jerry first.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Elliot.
Hi, my name's Elliot. I'm originally from Texas. This is my logo, and one of the things that I was really interested in was the different layers and the different origins of voodoo. I realized once you start researching voodoo, you just start clicking and clicking and clicking, and you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. So I wanted to bring that to my logo. So there's different layers. So if you go to the next one, it's kind of like just the base, which is the outlines, which, as you saw before, was inspired by those symbols that represent the different spirits. I really liked, the very graphic, very line quality of it. And then on the next slide, it shows a little bit more of the inspiration. So there's the symbols. But then once I started clicking more and more and more, I went deeper into like the origins of voodoo, and it's originated from this country in West Africa. And these people dress up as the actual spirits. And so that's where I drew the colors from, as well as some of like the graphic elements, the shapes, and the styles of it. But yeah, that's my logo.
Judges?
I love everything about this, down to the typeface that you've chosen for New Orleans.
Thank you.
Really wonderful.
It's a little busy for me. I actually like the type treatment that you've done with the word voodoo, but I'm not sure about the placement of the other type.
Okay.
I like the choice of it. It's really busy.
I would say, a successful mix of sort of cultural cues. So you're respectful of that, because one thing to go in there is all the campy stuff aside. That if there is something to respect here, how do you balance that? Because this suddenly feels like something new to me now. It feels like something you would be sort of excited to go to. It doesn't feel like suddenly it's the new and improved. I mean, how many years has it been going for?
72.
Since 72, so 42 years, 43 years. So there's something about it, but it's all just a little too clean. All of these are just a little too clean. Like I want everything to be carved into wood. Carved into wood, and then stepped on, prayed over, dirt, snakes, serpents, blood, and shit, and then make an image out of that.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. All right. Thank you so much. Perfect. You have a response?
Oh, I'll do that next time.
Okay, good. Yeah.
That was good.
Thank you, Elliot. Amy. And don't do that in your room. Don't get blood and wood and all kinds of stuff like that. And do it
No,
in
they
your
made us
hotel
put our
rooms.
credit card down, so you're not paying for it. I
Right,
won't trash it. Hi, my name is Amy Schwartz, and I'm from Chicago, and this is my, Chicago, what up? This is my logo for the New Orleans Historic Voodoo Museum, which is the definitive source of Louisiana voodoo, but also sits at Bourbon Street, so it does attract a lot of tourists. So my goal here was to create an identity that was both respectful to the rich heritage of Louisiana voodoo, but was rendered in a way that was friendly and welcoming and wouldn't scare off the tourists, but still felt decidedly spooky. So I created a logo and type treatment that work together, and the icon itself is an homage to the snake deities, and also candles and skulls and things that would be used in ritual and also seen in the museum. If you go to the next slide, you will see how that could come across on signage and things to attract people in such a busy area. And the next slide also shows how that icon itself can come across in different materials like t-shirts and things to make money off of the stupid tourists to keep the museum going. So I was inspired by these symbols, which I now know are not Louisiana voodoo, my mistake. Thank you for that knowledge. But was also inspired by things found in the museum itself, the tomb of Marie Laveau and other occult and interesting religion books and those type treatments. And that is my identity. If you go to the last slide, you'll also see that there is a little bit of texture and mess up just for you, Aaron.
Aaron, she heard you.
Well,
Yes, go ahead.
My first reaction, I'm trying to be really cool about this because, I didn't like it in class when people would just slam things, but we haven't seen this stuff, to sort of walk up. There is a bit of an element of like a little bit of Portlandia to it where it's like you dip it, and you said Chicago, so Traverse City, Michigan, just 6 hours above, but anyway.
Midwest.
There's something about that I want to kind of jump on and say, it's a little too now, but this would make it cooler down there. So some of the horseshit skulls and like, Satan's on hold, call the French Quarter instead with those T-shirts you see down there now. Like someone would want to buy this. So that I think there's something successful there because it's going to elevate. Another cool thing you can get down there, or something. Because I'd rather have them wearing this than some of the things that seem really mass-produced, because we went in there today and we dug around and we saw the voodoo kits and all the little there's some kind of a little charm bag or something we saw. So there's a nice system here. When I saw it in the sign, so before I jump on it and say it's too clean or it's too now, I don't know. That might be really successful for it.
I feel like it would have a large appeal. Like it just feels like something that would be really successful. And my only tiny little complaint would be, I wish that the type was based off of something older. It's cool what you've done with it, and I even like how simple the type is, but if it was, and I know you probably didn't have the time to do this, but like almost hand draw that as opposed to using a typeface.
You can only use your thumb, your opposable thumb that God gave you. It's not hard.
I guess you guys had a week, so that would have kind of put it over. That's when I would have loved it.
I completely agree.
But I really like how, I just feel like it would be very successful on merchandise and probably would be really good for the museum. So
Really
on
good
that ground, for that reason, I
Right.
like it a lot.
The skull doesn't really represent a skull. It represents Saint Gede, the spirit. In New Orleans, we call Saint Expedite. All the spirits here have been rebranded as Catholic saints. Now, there's one thing I haven't seen so far, any reference to Catholicism. Most voodoo here is very Catholic. And it's a little bit of a strong emphasis, again, back to Haiti. But, I mean, graphically it's good. The snake represents the connection between heaven and earth, and is actually represented by St. John, and that's what that is.
Great. Thank you so much for your
Thank
feedback.
you so much.
I think that means he likes it. You like it then?
Russell?
You like it?
Hello, everyone. My name is Russell Shaw. I'm from Atlanta. So this is some typography that I worked on by hand, actually, for the type treatment of the Voodoo Museum. And there's a reason why I focused on the imagery and the iconography that's within this type treatment. A few blocks from where the Voodoo Museum is located in the French Quarter, there's something that could be considered relatively similar and or a competitor, which is Marie Laveau's House of Voodoo. And her icons and the things that are within her branding is things that are, her name, Marie Laveau, is shown in type made out of bones. The word voodoo is in kind of blood drippy type. And I thought, okay, well, if that is something that is very close to where this is happening, I wanted to very clearly differentiate and stay away from kind of that type of symbology. So instead focused more on a naturalistic, more elemental side of voodoo. I wanted the mark itself to feel like it was energetic and alive, and like it had just crawled out of the bayou itself and planted and taken root overnight. So there's vines in it, and there's branches, and it's very rough. It's supposed to feel like it's hewn and carved. And you know, the centerpiece of the mark would actually be the raven or the crow, whose beak, the edge of, is the horizontal center of the mark. And I really wanted to play off of more of the crow. If you could go to the next slide. I developed just a few collateral teased out for this as a possible viz, where, you know, the raven or the crow could be its own icon, and then I also created where you could take the V as more of an initial stamp of the branding and put it in a viney swash crest to be able to abbreviate it for when it needs to be placed in smaller treatments. And the next slide is also just showing a little bit more of that, where the type is Archer mixed with handmade, which goes back to the way that I did the logo. And the background treatments for all of the different collateral have a bitmapped wood plank stamp as the backdrop to really drive home that kind of natural element. So that's my viz.
Yeah. Judges?
I like it. Yeah, no, I like also the fact that you took a different approach.
Thank you.
The crow is more associated with Edgar Allan Poe, but it is accurate. No, here's called the Karen Crow, and I have a very close friend who is a voodoo priest who's called Dr. Crow and just recently finished an exorcism with him.
So the crow
Close
is good.
to it.
Is a good.
It's not good or
Good.
bad.
It's not good or
However,
bad. Yeah.
there is no good or bad in voodoo. It's how they behave.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you so much, Russell. So can I remind everyone how incredibly terrifying this must be, right? Imagine yourself up here presenting your project, and you have, these people deserve enormous, thank you, God bless you. So let's go back and take a look at what you're voting for, because remember, you have a vote also. So you can take out your phones and tell us which one you like. We're going to have about 20 minutes before we have to deal with the vote. So you've got 20 minutes. You got to vote now. Takes one text message per person and one app vote per person too. So you guys can't vote for yourself 18 times or something. Okay. And then when we come back, we'll let you know which two contestants have been released, not cut, but released, to enjoy the conference without too much pressure. Don't be shy and share your enthusiasm for your favorite work. The official Command X hashtag is hashtag CXNOLA. So vote, hashtag it, Twitter it, do all those things, and we'll be back and point out which of you is free to enjoy the rest of your lovely time here. Thank you so much. It's that time again. Judges, come on out. Come on, move. Slow as molasses. Come on. Okay, welcome back to Command X. You've all done your voting. You've made the decision. So, I know it was a difficult decision, but before we go there, I want to hear from the judges. What do you think? What were your favorites, and what would you choose?
You're looking at
Yes, you guys. No, those people over there.
I know that Jerry said that there were problems with Jacobs, but I still love that.
Okay.
So I'm all for Jacob.
And I actually had 3 favorites. And so I called my husband and got him to vote for one that I couldn't vote, because I could only vote for one, but I voted for Amy. And I voted for Amy because I felt like not that it took a lot of risks, but I could see that it would sell a lot of merchandise. That's the one that felt the most commercially successful. But I really liked Jacob and Russell. So my husband voted for Russell, and I voted for Amy.
Okay. Aaron?
I went with the gal from Venice, Claire, because it just felt like successful for the zone. It didn't feel too now or like kind of low-hanging fruit, and it didn't have to go too deep. It was a quick read, right? So like any sort of communication, if you're walking through there, hammered or whatever, you can still read that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, where is it at?
That's a Friday night. Yeah.
So my vote was for Claire.
And Jerry?
I like the idea of originality and kind of getting off the preconceived notions. And I kind of lean toward Claire because the stars in voodoo represent infinity and the snakes also are very important.
Good to know. Great. All right, let's bring out our contestants again, our brave young designers. Come on out. All right, so now remember, regardless of the outcome, the 2 of you that are released have the best of all worlds. No more pressure. You don't have to get up at 7 a.m. to meet me. People will buy you drinks. Your life will be charmed and wonderful. So you're the lucky ones. The voting was tallied, and it was extraordinarily close and difficult. We'd love to keep everyone, but unfortunately, Nate, I'm sorry, we have to say goodbye. Thank you so much.
Hi, Nate.
And Claire, your time has come. Thank you so much. And it was beautiful, and you can hear the judges were all for you.
Robbed.
So now you can relax, enjoy the conference, and get what did you say backstage? Ripped? Is that the word?
Hammered?
Hammered. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Oh, you young people and your words. Okay, contestants. Next assignment. It is to design a new label for the bottle of Southern Comfort. That's an alcohol that you can drink, just in case I know they all are of age. We're not giving underage children assignments to do alcohol. So just to remind everyone, Southern Comfort is an American liqueur that's made from neutral spirits with fruit, spice, and whiskey flavoring. The brand was originally created by bartender Martin Wilkes Heron in New Orleans in 1874 and is now owned by the Brown-Forman Corporation. Southern Comfort has authentic roots in New Orleans with diverse cultural influences, a rich history, and name recognition. But recently, the company decided it had lost relevance and wanted to talk to a new generation. Now, redesigning an iconic brand, as you know, is an incredibly difficult proposition. What part of the equity do you keep? What part do you jettison? Do you make it modern? Do you not make it modern? So that's the grappling that you're going to have to deal with here. Now, Minneapolis design studio Q was given this assignment recently and tackled it bravely and took it on. But we want to see how you would deal with the same assignment and the same challenge. You probably will have to drink some of it just to know what it's like. Did we give free bottles of Southern Comfort?
We should.
Damn. So not fair. You have until tomorrow afternoon. We'll be back here 24 hours from now. Be prepared to defend your decisions briefly and succinctly, and use your mentors. Don't let them slack off. And good luck. So go forth, have Southern Comfort, make wonderful things. Not yet. Okay. So, audience, if you want to check in on your favorite contestant and watch them working live in person, you can stop by the Command X workstation, which is in the design fair. Now, feel free to offer opinions, and I know I love it when clients come by and stand over my shoulder and watch me work. So I'm sure they will too. So feel free to do that and give them all the encouragement and every idea you might come up with. They love that. Remember to share your competition thoughts so far. Cheer on your favorites and Twitter with the official Command X hashtag, hashtag CXNOLA. And as well as we know, they are the bravest people on the planet as far as I'm concerned. So every bit of encouragement helps. Please give it to them. Thank you so much. See you guys tomorrow morning. All right.